Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
So this is episode 56. We have Lauren Ornelas on today.
With the Food Empowerment Project.
Yeah, you can check them out at foodispower.org.
They also have veganmexicanfood.com.
Very, very delicious vegan Mexican recipes.
I'm actually using it for my meal tonight.
Awesomeness.
So my hat's off to you on that one. Do you know what I also used the other day?
What's that?
Their smartphone app.
Yeah, me too. I've been using it. It's really easy to use.
And the smartphone app is to let you know which chocolate basically is ethical to use or not.
Yeah, which a lot of chocolate, when we go into it a little bit, is really...
child slavery.
Yeah, totally.
Is the easiest way to put it, yeah.
And so yeah, you can check out the free smartphone app from them. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's quick and easy and free. So check it out at their website, foodispower.org.
So this month, we are going to be offering memberships for items on our wish list.
What's really awesome about that is that everything on the wish list will get you a membership.
Anywhere from a year to a lifetime.
And there's stuff on there that's honestly just a couple of bucks.
Yeah, really.
And everything on there is going to go towards either this show or the collective in general to help produce, this content for everyone.
Yeah, and with a membership, we'll be giving you bonus episodes. And already right now, there's tons of bonus episodes that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You get access to that back catalog as well as additional things like ringtones, wallpapers, whatever, silly things. But we have ebooks and zines on there too, and we try to provide you with content because you're helping us out.
I was gonna make a couple new ringtones to throw up there. Just because I think it's funny.
It is funny.
I use them.
Yeah, we should be getting some stickers for everyone pretty soon. We're still just working on it.
Working on printer issues.
Yeah. But yeah, besides that, it's totally doable.
What's even awesome about it is that everything that's on the wish list goes to our Amazon account. So on top of purchasing those items that we're going to be using to create this content, we also then get a kickback from that also.
Yeah, so if you are buying anything over the holidays for anybody, totally use our Amazon link and we get a small kickback. Amazon gets less money, we get a little bit of money, and that helps.
So out of everything on the wish list, what is the thing you want the most?
Out of everything on the wish list, what do I want the most?
And don't say the most expensive thing.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm really thinking like I would like hosting fees.
You want hosting fees?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would help so fucking much.
Yeah, because there's that, and then there's a new mic would be great for in-studio guests, but
yeah,
that
would be really great. We really need that. Just to let everyone know, like, your donations make this possible. And we've only been able to stay afloat because of the donations that we receive. And so you guys are all really awesome, and thank you so much. But right now, guess how much we have in our bank account?
Yeah, we have about 17 cents,
about
something
17
like that.
Cents.
We just paid for all of the .com hosting fee, and that's not including the bandwidth hosting fee
for the shows.
For the podcast shows. So sorry to make this feel like a pledge drive every fucking episode, but it's just we need your help. So
so help us, goddammit.
Help us and get some awesome kickback. If you already have a membership, we can add that onto your additional membership, or you can give it as a gift. Yeah,
it's a great opportunity to give it as a gift. So if anyone wants to get me a year-long membership, I'm totally down. I would love that. So I'd be sure to pass it on to someone who would like it.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know who to give one to.
Yeah, we can give them to some people for you. And if you need help with anything, we're willing to work with you on anything too. So
yeah. Well, I'm really excited about this episode. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoy it. So sit back and enjoy.
Relax.
Get to it.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side? Which side are you on? 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 Which side are you on?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
All right. How are y'all?
I'm doing well. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Jordan.
Hi, Jeremy and Jordan.
Hello.
It's very nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet both of you as well. Thank you again for asking me to be on your show.
No,
No
thank
problem.
you for everything you do. Because holy crap, you do a lot.
Thank you.
But one of the things that really kind of blew me away was you did a TED Talk.
I did.
How
That was
that like
interesting.
nerve-wracking? Like, how did that come about?
Okay. Like, we don't want to deal with the whole show, me going through the horrors of my TEDx talk. But one of their curators had seen me before. And she really liked the way I spoke and the message. And so she asked me if I'd be interested in doing one. And I said yes. And then, of course, it dawned on me what I was saying yes to. And kind of, I get nervous before every talk and after every talk. I pretty much beat myself up about not saying what I wanted to say or not being passionate enough. And so the daunting task eventually settled in my mind. And unfortunately, one of the TEDx curators was not too keen on my message. Let's put it that way. And I got a lot of pushback from them on veganism and on animal rights. And so I went through a period of just kind of telling myself that I wasn't sure I really wanted to do it after all, because I wasn't interested in speaking about vegans who were celebrities. I wasn't interested in speaking about the health aspect. I was interested in speaking about the animals and the ethics behind why many of us go vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And, I eventually, just decided kind of like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to show that it's possible, for us to talk about this issue and in a way that can resonate with people. And she actually, this one curator who wasn't thrilled about my message, is the one who introduced me at the TEDx in San Francisco and admitted that she was hard on me and that she had been hard on me because she saw herself as a very compassionate person. And yet I was telling her that by eating animals, she wasn't being. So she asked everybody, before my talk to listen to what I had to say and learn from what I had to say. So it was an interesting turn how it all came about, but it was a lot. I can't tell you, I've never worked so hard on a talk in my life.
I couldn't imagine the nerves to do, like getting ready for a TED Talk.
Yeah, I'm used to speaking with notes because, again, when we do this stuff, we feel such a responsibility to every animal and, to every issue. So for me, it's the animals, it's the farm workers, it's the children in West Africa. I feel such a responsibility. And to think of if I forget something, I don't have my notes handy or whatever it is. And so that for me was some of the most nerve-wracking part of doing the talk.
I always get nervous that when I'm talking to any sort of group of people, that I'll get one little like fact wrong or one statistic wrong by like a percentage point, and then the people will hold on to that error and not get the general message. So I'm always like so nervous about doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's although I guess we would have to hope that everybody can cut us some slack if we do something like that, but shouldn't prevent you from going out and speaking.
It's funny that they gave you pushback because I've heard Peter Singer talk, and he doesn't really talk about veganism either on his TED Talks. I know his thing in veganism is not strict, but...
Yeah, I think that, when I sent them other talks that had been done on TEDx, talking about animal rights, the interesting thing was that they're men.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have Philip Woolen, who's like with the former Citibank something or another. You have this man who used to be a sniper in Australia, talking about animals, but they're men. And it was an interesting thing to figure out, well, why is that okay? Why is it this big twist to have a man talk about compassion towards animals, but a woman talking about it? Somehow that's less interesting.
Well, congratulations, because I think you did a wonderful job on it.
Thank you. That means the world to me. This was been such a task for months and months for me to get through. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
It was great.
It's like a milestone. Like I don't think I'll ever achieve something. So like I don't know. Maybe I hold TED Talks too high of an extreme, but it's
yes, that's probably true.
But it seems like all like the people
lot.
like you mentor and like you look up to, and you can get so many great ideas from people you've never heard of before by listening to them.
No, it's true. It's true.
So.
I just think obviously you are well spoken and you have the passion behind it. So I think it's absolutely possible for you to do one. I'll say that right now, everybody. You hear me?
That's because you haven't listened to me talk long enough yet.
All right, okay, at the end of the show, we'll revisit my statement.
So right now you're doing foodispower.org.
Yes, Food Empowerment Project is the name of the organization, and our website's Food is Power. And then we also have a website, veganmexicanfood.com.
Yeah,
So-
we were going over the vegan Mexican food one.
Yeah, it's one of the it's one of the hardest cuisines for me to personally cook because I don't see that many recipes converted easily, and since I don't really cook that way naturally,
Right.
the website's always been, it's a great resource.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, it's as I'm a Chicana, and so Mexican food's what I grew up with, and so it was really important to me to have a website that reached out to other vegans like me. Who This is our comfort food. This is our where our family is, and we want to make sure we can get the message out to more of our people. We're very compassionate, animal loving people. So and historically, our food isn't really entrenched in animal products until Columbus came over. So.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
So what's like the hardest dish for you to convert over to make it, to veganize it?
Probably the ones we don't have on there, but so other Chicanos, look out there for that. But I don't really cook, so that's the funny thing is that I'm the type of person who looks at a package and it'll say like cooks in 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh my god, that's forever. So vegan Mexican food. Uh-huh.
You don't really cook. Like it's almost an oxymoron to be vegan and not really cook, right?
Right. Well, I went through most of my life being, when I was young, being a vegetarian that didn't like vegetables. And it was great when I went vegan because vegetable wasn't even in the word. But, but yeah, no, that's why if you look at the recipes, they're all done by other people. That's why we're always like, please give us your recipes. Because if I cooked, it'd be like, I guess burritos, I can do that all right. Just beans and guacamole and my tortilla.
But you don't make your tortillas, I'm assuming.
No, I wish, because those are the best, but no. God, I'm embarrassing myself. Like,
No, not at all. Not at all. My partner's the same way. She doesn't cook at all. Never has.
Yeah.
So
I expect you guys to take care of it.
it's true. It's true. One of the things I love that you guys do that has gotten me thinking a lot more about my personal choices is your chocolate list and like the extensive research that you guys have done and brought out. Like how did you start like compiling the research for that?
Well, thank you first for caring about the issue as a vegan. Well, I would go and I would give talks and I would talk about, kind of the basic premise of Food Empowerment Project. And when I would get to the chocolate section, people would be like, so what chocolate can I eat? And I'd be like, good question. So that's kind of where the whole creation of the list started from, was that people, when you're a vegan, you kind of look to make sure that your buying choices don't harm anybody. And it's the same thing for us when it comes to chocolate. And so we started to reach out to the companies and ask them, where are you sourcing your cacao beans from? And, unfortunately, a lot of these companies think they can say Switzerland and not realize the cacao beans aren't grown in Switzerland. Maybe the chocolate's made there. But we're talking about the actual cacao beans where they're grown. And so we realized, where a lot of the worst forms of child labor, including slavery, are taking place are kind of in one area, which is West Africa. So that is kind of the basis for our list, is determining where the companies sourcing the cacao from. And we're very lucky to have wonderful volunteers who reach out to these companies for us. So we reach out to the company. They don't respond in 2 weeks. We remind them. They don't respond in another 2 weeks. We give them a little bit more time. And then they eventually go on our do not respond list. But we try and give the companies at least a month and a half to 2 months to actually get back to us with the information.
One of the surprising companies that sources from that area that really shocks me is Tofuti.
Right. Well, go ahead.
No, it seems like that there was quite a few more on that list, like
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's is on the list, and there's like
Whole Foods had a chocolate chip.
The Whole Foods chocolate chips are on that list.
Yeah, I with tofuti, I'm always like, I don't know if you remember, like back in the day, they used to basically say they didn't care about, serving vegans.
Oh, I remember when their
Their whole
cheese wasn't vegan at all.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they kind of have always, the ethics I've just never felt has been 100% there for the company.
Yeah, it's not really a vegan company. I get
No.
that, but I mean,
Yeah,
their mainstay is
but
vegan, so you would think,
yeah, they would care about these.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so if you consider 70 to 75% of the world's cacao comes from West Africa. So the vast majority of companies are getting their chocolate from these areas. And I should say that Divine is a company that we recommend because they actually have a worker-owned cooperative in Ghana. Even though they're in West Africa, they are actually working where in a cooperative, so the workers have the say in what's done, and that we support. But majority, this is, if you were to look at most of the candy bars, out and about, they'd all be on the do not recommend list.
Yeah,
So we're lucky that so many vegan companies try not to source from West Africa.
the one thing I had a question with on the list is that you have a subsection where it's don't recommend, but they're working on it. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does working on it mean? And
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that, because we're trying to figure out how to deal with that, because some companies are not, and unfortunately vegan companies are not being completely honest about everything. But that basically means that this company is sourcing from West Africa, but maybe they have a certification of Rainforest Alliance, which we don't put a lot of credence into, or when they respond to us, they recognize that there's a problem in West Africa. So they say things like, well, we have ethical standards that all the suppliers have to adhere to. Well, you know what? That's not good enough for us, because we know how prevalent slavery is there and how prevalent child labor is there. But we don't want to discount that they're at least saying that they're aware of the issue. See, we're trying to figure out how to reword it. We don't want to, there's some companies who just respond to us and say, oh, we get our chocolate from the Ivory Coast and Ghana, with zero recognition of the problems that are taking place there in the industry. Whereas these companies are at least acknowledging that there's a problem there, and they're trying to work with their suppliers.
So, do you expand on that ignorance at all? Do you let them know what is going on, maybe?
Some of them we do, yes. And any company that we're working with to change suppliers is not going to be on our list. So there's some companies who have responded to us and said, well, are there any companies you can recommend then that we can source from? And those companies are not on our list, because we want to give them the ability to and the time to make the change.
okay. So, have you had pushback from activists when it comes to the cacao issue?
Yes. Vegan activists. Yeah, because their question to us, especially when we first started having tables, this is even in the San Francisco area, where activists would come up and be like, so what's the issue with chocolate? And we'd explain, and they'd say, well, what does that have to do with animals? And we'd say, well, aside from, we could go through the whole humans are animals thing, but we don't. Yeah. But, just kind of like, well, we think this is a really important issue. To us, veganism is about justice. And then you have a lot of activists who will not support anything that we do, and don't see that our work is about all these issues as one, that they see the chocolate list as, again, what we try and talk about, which is just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's cruelty free.
Mm-hmm.
And, we try to reach out to organizations when they promote chocolate that is on our do not recommend list, but they don't really care.
I'll have to admit, 13, 14 years ago, I was probably one of those activists where I was just that single-minded, animal rights only, I don't care about anything else. Like, yeah, you can do what you want, but this is the biggest thing for me. But I mean, right. Maybe it's just age and, getting wiser. I don't know, but I can't separate the two anymore. And I don't understand how people do.
Thank you. You do my heart such good right now. Yeah. I understand that. I mean, when I got involved, I was in Texas and I was in high school, and animal rights and veganism was it. But I think that I do cut, especially the newbie activists, some slack. But more than that, it's actually the young people who really get what we're talking about. When we're talking about this issue, they get that okay, well, I care about this. Why wouldn't I care about this issue as well? They're both food related, and I can try and make a difference. And, when I talk about this issue, I'm not encouraging animal rights groups to, give up what they're doing. I'm asking for some consistency. So if, don't call, ideally, I want them to not use companies that we don't recommend. And they don't have to give up and do our campaigns, but if they can at least be consistent when we're talking about suffering and cruelty, I think that goes a long way.
We had this local I guess couple that would make chocolates for us, and they were all charity chocolates, and that's actually the first time that I was aware of the issue, because they told me that they'd feel really guilty about doing it because they just couldn't afford to do fair trade and also be able to make the charity for whatever benefit they're doing worth it. And so that's when I first looked into chocolates, and I was pretty ignorant at that point myself. Sure.
But it's like, it's just like animal consumption, right? Or, even say SeaWorld or something like that. It's the same with chocolate. None of these places are going to expose that there's not going to be any label that talks about what happened to the children. So, I know, we feel bad because like, gosh, I should have known about that. But that's kind of like what we're dealing with all these issues, is that people don't know. And it's our responsibility to go out there and educate and hope that they make the correct choice. And at least for us, when corporations don't make the correct choice, we can try and steer them in that direction.
So how is growing up in Texas being an animal rights activist?
It was difficult. If you saw my TEDx talk, so you know that I went veg when I was pretty young, and I went vegan in the late 80s in Texas. And just the things that you hear and the things that you deal with is in some ways kind of sad, but isn't that different now where you have people asking about protein? And, I think I was already an outsider. I think that just kind of, unfortunately, I just added to my differentness of being what I would be called in high school was a punk rocker. And I'd also be called a hippie, which to me, I don't see how those are anywhere related, but that was just, Texans didn't have anything else to call me. I was a hippie or as a punker, and then I went vegan. And so, but it was difficult. I think that finding makeup that was cruelty-free and vegan was difficult. Pretending like vegan cheeses were really good, even though they tasted like plastic. Pretending like rice milk was really, really great. Do you remember the day rice milk was just like ice?
I remember when I finally had Silk for the first time. It was like, holy crap, soy milk's actually good. Like,
right.
Just get those West Soy boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go West Soy. Yeah. I remember, the only veggie patties we used to have was when you add boiled water to the Fantastic Foods mix, So you didn't have any already pre-created veggie burgers or anything. I went to college in Austin, and so it was a great, I grew up in San Antonio. So going to college in Austin, there were actually vegetarian restaurants there. So I felt a little bit less strange than I did growing up in San Antonio. I still feel that way.
I hear a lot of people have that feeling with Austin. Like, Austin's way more veg friendly than most of the places
It totally is.
In Texas, yeah.
Yeah, San Antonio has at least 1 or 2 vegan restaurants now, which is exciting. But yeah, the vast majority is in Austin. And, I haven't been there in a few years, but I have to wonder with how many, decades of Republicans in office have changed the town at all.
Well, we're in Utah, which is a pretty goddamn conservative place. And I remember when I went vegan, we went from 0 vegan restaurants to now having multiple with 2 vegan bakeries.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, the change here has been astounding, since the mid-90s.
In Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love Salt Lake City. Just to drive through, you always remember driving through Salt Lake City, and then when you got out, you would have salt on your car.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, that was Salt Lake City, and now I've got salt in my car. It's real.
So what's the biggest change you've seen happen in the animal rights and vegan communities since you've been involved in it?
Positive, right?
Or negative. I'm cool either way.
Let's do positive. in the community versus saying, oh, we have so many more vegan foods?
Yeah.
It's a good question. Well, I think we've made great changes. I think that just in terms of issues, we're not so fringe anymore. I mean, veganism alone, you have it being referred to in movies. I mean, my family now hears the word vegan, whereas my friend from high school likes to say I was vegan before vegan was cool. It's like, it's that in and of itself has really changed things. I don't feel like, you always have animal groups that are worried about using the word vegan. And to me, it's like, we finally hit it. We finally have every right to use the word vegan now, not worry about people understanding what it is or not. Of course, it doesn't mean everybody knows what it means, but we've hit that point. And so I think we've done it. I think that getting people to start thinking about animals in general, and again, I'm saying this because I'm in California, but that I think people are more inclined to think about animals now than maybe they were in the 1980s. I think we've got a long way to go, obviously. SeaWorld needs to be shut down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, I don't know how a movie like Blackfish would have done in the 80s.
I don't even know if you could have got it made.
Yeah. And would CNN have picked it up?
Oh, definitely not.
God, no.
I don't think
yeah. So I look at things like that, and I'm like, that definitely we're getting there. And I think that young people are always what inspires me and gives me hope. But I think that, I spoke at Cal State Northridge earlier in November. And my God, those are great college students who were definitely interested in all of these issues. And most of them came to talk to me about veganism and vegetarianism. And I didn't find that at my universities, in Texas in the 80s, or 90s for that matter.
So one of the things that is a huge issue for me that I don't know how I can ever really help with is like the food desert problems and the unavailability of health food in low income areas
and like communities of color
and communities of color. Yeah. So like, what as an activist sitting in Salt Lake City can I do for those issues?
A couple things. One is making sure that people know about it. So many people, even people who are living in these areas, again, I just mentioned Cal State Northridge, don't even realize that that's not how it is everywhere.
Well, for people out there that don't know, would you mind explaining to them what the issue is?
Sure. Food deserts is a term. We tend to use it. We tend not to use it, which basically talks about an area where you have a more prevalence of liquor stores and fast food restaurants, and a grocery store or a place to access healthy foods is maybe a mile or more away. For Food Empowerment Project, we don't like to just think of it in terms of a mileage in a regional area, because it doesn't take into consideration people who are time poor and who work several jobs and who still just don't make a lot of money. We have the working poor in this country because you have people who work several jobs over 40 hours a week, 60 plus, and they still can't afford these foods financially, or even just because it may take them a bus or two to get somewhere to buy fresh produce. So that's kind of the background on what typically is termed as food deserts. And again, these areas have higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of heart disease, because what is available in these areas is so unhealthy, like McDonald's or KFC or something.
So as an activist, what can we do about this issue?
Making sure that people are aware of it. If you see, and I don't know Salt Lake City very well, but I would say if there is an area in Salt Lake City where this is taking place, and sometimes I'm able just to look up online food desert in a city's name or something like that to see if there is a problem there. A majority of the areas that Food Empowerment Project works on that I'm familiar with are primarily communities of color. And I've spoken on this issue in Canada, and it was the First Nations people who were impacted. I spoke on this at the Animal Rights Conference in New Zealand, and it was the Maori, the indigenous people who were impacted. And in the United States, primarily, it is people of color who are impacted, say, except for maybe, white people in the Appalachian. And I don't know what it's like in Salt Lake City area, but the best way to help this type of work is to financially support those organizations that are working on it. And that's because a lot of people who I speak to are a little bit more privileged and can possibly financially donate to those organizations, which are primarily community-based organizations that are trying to work on this issue. You can also contact these community-based groups and ask them if there's, let them know what you can help with and see if they have any need for that type of help. But more than not, people of color are the ones who are going to be going out and talking about these issues, and people from within that community. So even Food Empowerment Project, right now we're doing our work in Vallejo. We're working with the community groups. We don't go into a community without them asking us to be there.
Do you find this problem more in rural areas or more in urban areas, or is it a good combination between the two?
Good combination between the two. And, we primarily do our work in more urban areas, but we know that in California, where the farm workers live in the Central Valley, they can't even access the food. I mean, they're picking it every day and they go home. Even actually in Salinas area, which is, if you think of California, it's kind of near Santa Cruz or Monterey Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of farm workers live in that area and they work in that area. And one of the labor camps that we went to, there's no bus stops there. There's no grocery stores nearby. And so for them to be able to access healthy foods are very difficult for them. I mean, and there isn't even, that's not to say necessarily they have liquor stores or fast food in the area like that. There's just nothing there. So it goes both ways. Unfortunately, again, it's almost always communities of color and low-income communities. So if you have one of those communities, they're going to be prone to having lack of access to healthy foods.
So how does the issue get fixed? Is it just, helping the communities open up their own stores, or is it co-ops and collectives? Is it
bringing food?
Bringing food, or is it working with larger corporations to get them to build supermarkets? Like how do you win this issue?
Well, I think that the first thing, this is going to be just my and Food Empowerment Project's perspective. So, but basically, the community has to be the one to make the decision. And, because what happens a lot of times in these communities is that a well-intentioned NGO or, government agencies will come in and say, this is what you need. And the community has no buy-in. They're saying, okay, you said we had to have a farmer's market, but nobody asked us when it should be open and what days are best for us. So it may not solve our problem. Talk to us. We're the ones living here. We're the ones who can give you an idea of what we need. For Food Empowerment Project, we do not support the idea of Walmart or these large corporations coming into these communities. We want people growing their own food. And if for some reason they can't grow their own food, then we would rather there be cooperatives in the area where the money stays within the community and not leaving the community. Because again, you have people who are in the situations they're in and they're working all the time. It's because they're not making a living wage. They're working at a restaurant or at Walmart and they don't make a living wage. And so we need to have, a system in place where they can actually, a business that will support their community.
On that topic, I wanted to also talk about like environmental racism, and to expand on that a little bit. Could you explain what that means?
Absolutely. So environmental racism is when one portion of a population, which is primarily a community of color or people of color community, is disproportionately impacted by pollutants. So here in the Bay Area in California, you have oil refineries and ports, those types of things which are very polluting, located in communities of color. So therefore, those communities have higher respiratory problems. They might have nosebleeds, different things like that are impacting them. For Food Empowerment Project, we look at that in terms of food issues, where we do kind of consider, we want food deserts to be considered part of that, but we also look at factory farms and where factory farms are located. So one of the largest pig-killing states in the U.S. is North Carolina, and there you have primarily Black people who are living in areas where these pig farms are, and they have They get nosebleeds. There's flies. They can't open their windows in the summertime. They have severe headaches and all sorts of respiratory problems because they live so close to these facilities. Same thing in California, in the Central Valley, where it's primarily Latinos live. You have dairy farms. So
does this go back to when the government was redlining subsidized loans?
I don't know. The only time I actually just became familiar with that whole redlining stuff in Oakland and learning about it. It's a good question. I haven't looked back to see how far back that goes in terms of where people were living and in these factory farms. I think that I don't know about the dairy because I think dairy. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I knew. It's a good question.
Yeah, the whole redlining thing, I don't think that many people are aware of it. But it's when the government would actually go around and draw red lines on maps and saying they won't subsidize home loans in these areas, making it disproportionately people of color and low income. Because then people that were living in those areas, their housing rates would plummet because people couldn't buy in those areas anymore. And so it would, create this vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I think that, again, it's a really good question. I know that Oakland has seen the effects of that. Absolutely.
So as activists, how do we fight against, environmental racism?
It's another good question. I don't know. I mean, I think that by going vegan, we're not contributing to those aspects. Of course, we can look at pesticide drift and other agricultural chemicals that are used for produce, but definitely not supporting those. I think also just going out, again, these community groups, there's so many of them who fight the good fight to what's happening. And I think that finding out from them what we can do to help support and be bodies, and demand that this change. And something like environmental racism, when I think of like the ports and the oil refineries and things like that, and even to some degree the factory farms, is I don't know what's going to change that. I wish I did. I wish I felt like there was one thing other than just, being supportive to the community groups that are fighting these good fights.
I think that's like the best thing, because what I always get afraid of is, being viewed as, the white savior coming in to save these people. And I think the best thing is to ask them what you can do sometimes, instead of trying to come in and, tell them what to do.
Absolutely. Because they know what's going on. Mm-hmm. We don't need to go in there. Just like for us, we don't need to teach people how to cook healthy. They know how to cook healthy. A lot of these communities, they don't have access to the foods.
Yeah.
And there's just such great, you want to be inspired. There's just such wonderful organizations working on this issue. I used to work up for a nonprofit called Silicon Valley Toxics Coalition and just really got exposed to some fantastic community groups.
What's been, maybe I'll put you on the spot here, you don't have to answer this one, but what's been your favorite organization to work with in general? And
in general,
mm-hmm.
Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment, I would say probably my favorite organization to work with. They're based in California. They were founded, they're an environmental justice group, and they work on toxics issues. They also work on some farm worker issues, and where I first started working with them was on factory farming. And they were able to work with me in a way where they understood where I was coming from. We shut down a 6,000 cow dairy farm from coming into an area in Northern California, and a 15 cow farm where they would have kept the females before they give birth. So it was called a heifer farm.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to work with them, and our whole thing was pretty much anti-milk, animal consumption, and to where the milk industry would go up and say, she spoke at the Capitol against drinking milk. Like, it was this horrible thing that I did. But this organization, when they started creating standards for how the animals should be raised if they were going to be used for the dairy industry in this county, they understood that I couldn't help with that wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want animals to be raised. But, they were happy to work with us. They're attorneys. Mm-hmm. And they ended up creating this really, really strong language in Solano County. And I still work with them. They've helped us out, giving us some photos on the dairy stuff that we're working on. They have a big campaign in Kettleman City, very, very poor area of California, where there's a lot of birth defects because of a dump in the area. And they're just a really, they understand where we're at, and they also get the importance that the community has the say, that it's not us as NGOs going into these communities, that we help them with what they want us to help with.
So this is more of like just a personal stance. Like, how do you feel about the writing of the regulation where it's more animal welfare of like, oh, we can increase these cage sizes and we should fight for this? Or do you feel like more effort should be put in the actual, the abolishing of the animal trade?
Well, for Food Empowerment Project, and for me personally, it's abolishing it. With that effort that I talked about was a coalition. So we made it clear as a coalition that if they went down that path, we couldn't be a part of it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we stand. I will always want to put my time and energy in getting people to stop consuming animals.
I've always had a hard time when you see these hardcore animal rights organizations all of a sudden be taking welfare stances. Mm-hmm. And it's always been really hard for me.
It's hard for me too. And it's in doing the organization that I had before Food Empowerment Project, Viva USA, it was difficult. I would give talks. And I mean, I'll just use an example, but I would give talks about, different companies and the way the animals are raised or whatever, and why people shouldn't be eating them. And I would have a student raise their hand and say, but PETA says Safeway is okay. So I can buy, and I'd be like, no, kind of like that whole, it gets confusing for people. Mm-hmm, I mean,
for sure.
That confusion, the sad part is that the industry can confuse people, right? They are making a buck off of it. But when we start to confuse people, it's just shame on us. I mean, for even allowing that to happen, for any animal group to think that, anyway.
I'll go out and say this, it's weird looking at like an organization like PETA, because they went from being at their origins, the Animal Liberation Front press office at the time supporting, direct action, to cheering for bigger cages. And like the going from one extreme to the other, it makes me cringe, like, honestly.
It was absolutely painful. I mean, that's why I'm sure many of us loved PETA. I mean, here they had the ALF giving him videos, and PETA was doing what they should have been doing. It was like, okay, well, we got the videos, now we'll start a campaign and we're going to smash them until it stops. Mm-hmm. And then you have this really confusing thing happening where they're talking about, atmospheric killing of chickens being, let's push KFC in that direction. And it's like, okay, but you're supposed to be that's the most radical. And yet here you are saying that that's okay. I mean,
it's really hard. Like, my first activism was done by PETA. Like, I'm in junior high, and you can call PETA, and they'll send you stickers and pamphlets and posters. And they would help these activists. And now it's just like, I don't even want to tell people about you.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons, right?
Yeah. So on that note, who's the worst organization you've worked with?
That I've worked.
That's a mean question.
You don't have to answer that one.
I'll say it this way: we have not mentioned their name thus far, or we have not referred to them. So that's.
I could just start naming organizations.
Then I would have to say, remember, it's such and such. Okay, now we've mentioned them.
Were they animal based, earth based? Neither. They were animal based.
Yeah.
I
would say that there's a lot of animal groups out there that, one, don't know how to treat people right. Mm-hmm. And they have a very, what I call the 1980s way of being, which is the animals are suffering. How dare you, want a living wage? How dare you want a day off? How dare you, and again, I'm a workaholic. Those aren't things that, I run my own groups because I can work all the time, but if we continue along that path of thinking that the way that you do things for the animals to sacrifice everything, then one, you're only going to have a certain type of person who's ever going to be able to work for pay for the animals. Mm-hmm. And it's almost always going to be white privileged people. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge, huge problem, I think, because then you're going to have organizations that have no concept when they offend people of color with different campaigns or different things that they post.
Yeah, it just makes me sad.
I know.
I mean, speaking of that, like, I remember my first, not to harp on PETA so much, but I remember my first falling out with PETA was their fur trim campaign they did. What was that? Like 99?
Yeah.
That was my biggest fall. I'm like, this is just beyond ridiculous. Like, why have to put down women to make, your case against for animals? Like, they should be on the same playing field. Like, we should be fighting for both.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that smart women saw that. They saw right through that, being like, really? I mean, that's offensive to me. How many people we've offended,
I don't know. I'll say it. Fuck them. Whatever. Yeah, sorry. I just got on a downer on that.
I know. I'm like, how do I help bring this up? Because when I start to put animal groups, it's kind of yeah. I get depressed myself.
It's hard sometimes, like having kids, your whole life is around atrocities, basically. So how do you keep yourself motivated and uplifted, and what do you tell activists that are feeling kind of depressed and
burnt out
yeah,
that I really feel like we're making a difference and that we can continue to make a difference. I mean, gosh, again, young people being a huge point of inspiration. I wrote a blog. This is like the corniest blog I ever wrote, but basically I have this ability, or I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I work and I usually have the TV on in the background because I'm used to multitasking, so I like having a lot going on. And I end up putting kids' movies on in the background. And I'll tell you that I always feel like there's this touch that I have that what I end up watching ends to have some type of animal message in it, or kids who are fighting for animal rights. And for some reason that inspires me, that even like that we are portrayed more than not as what we want kids to aspire to be like: compassionate, just, fighting for justice. And so I think that, some of when people are feeling burnt out or whatever is just one, to recognize the changes that they're able to make in their own lives, and see how much of an impact they're having themselves, but to never, ever, ever stop fighting, because there's always going to be something else, even if it's something small, telling Southwest you're never going to fly them again until they break ties with SeaWorld, or, recommending a new, getting a grocery store to have a new vegan tofurkey product that's out, or, the bigger things. But I mean, even the small things, every single one of these small things makes a huge impact.
It's funny that you bring up like the kids' movies that have the animal themes. It surprises me how many of these movies, like if normal people did this, they would be labeled as terrorists.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know.
And yeah, like my first one that always comes to my mind is Free Willy.
Oh right.
Like that's terrorism, according to the law. But I don't think anyone would say it's wrong.
Yep, and Hoot.
Yeah, Hoot is a big one. Yeah,
that's like a really good one. And then there's another
Project
kids one that
X.
I saw, and it was Project X.
It's on Netflix.
My mentor
right now.
was a part of that one. And we should say that was like the Project X from the 1980s, right? With
Yes,
Matthew Broderick.
I guess now you have to clarify.
Yeah. There's another one where it was like this girl who was like all about animal rights and wearing, animal anti-testing, and she was upset because her friend didn't come to her protest against animal testing or against fur or something. And it was like, God, I mean, they're in high school, and this is the great thing.
Yeah, those things do uplift me. It makes you feel a little bit better. Like, if these messages keep getting out there, then, with the people that are actually doing these things, maybe they're not going to be demonized so much.
Yeah, and then the ones who are hurting animals in any kids show ever, whether it be 101 Dalmatians and fur or Beauty and the Beast with hunting, they're almost always the bad people. They're not the ones that is the hero, so to speak.
They're always the villain.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many shows I've watched where the vivisector is the villain. Like how horrible the vivisector is.
Exactly.
Goddamn
This is really
vivisectors.
so off topic, but I watched Rosemary's Baby last night. I love horror movies. And, anyway, I'm not going to go a long story, but anyway, she's like possessed, or, something's going on with her, and her whole thing is eating meat. And it's like, again, because she has Satan's baby in her, she wants to eat meat. It's not like she's eating fruits and veggies because she's got Satan babies in her, It's like there's something there to this.
So you're a horror fan. Are you familiar with Linnea Quigley?
No.
She was in, what is
Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead.
Too.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's the one
I
that's
didn't know
always dancing around and singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, she's actually a big time animal rights activist, vegan. So
that. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll definitely check that out.
yeah, we talked to her just a little while ago about it. She does a whole bunch, and it's just interesting. I'm not a huge horror fan, so I know nothing about any of it, but.
And I should say that I like the horror movies also where, like, you know, they're big ants or, you know, like the corny ones, the corny horror movies.
Yeah, she was like, they call her like a scream queen or something. Like she was
Like a
always
B-movie
someone
scream
screaming
queen.
like really loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta wonder if they just audition people based on a scream.
I bet so.
I bet a lot of them do. Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about, which we haven't brought up yet, is the private. I can't even talk right.
The uses and privatization of water.
Thank
Wow.
you.
I couldn't do it either.
We throw those big words on there to slip people up.
So what can we do with this one, and how are you guys fighting for it?
Well, this is kind of one of those areas where I wish we could put more time into. Being all volunteer, we kind of pick and choose what our focus is, but we feel like water privatization is an issue that everybody needs to be aware of and try and do their part. And we don't do a whole lot like I wish that we could. But basically, we just encourage people not to support those companies that are buying up water.
Who's the worst offender?
You know, I don't know if it'd be Coke or Nestle.
Yeah, I was thinking those two when I thought of it.
I've heard unbelievable horror stories about Nestle.
Oh,
like
yeah.
They're up there as like one of the worst corporations ever in my books.
And they deserve that title too. Yeah, well, let's just say basically the water privatization is taking place, you know, abroad, but it's taking place in the United States as well. And what happens is that the water infrastructure for, say, a different city or a town or a county may be getting old. And, you know, our cities don't have a lot of money right now. Our states, the government doesn't. Well, all right, I won't get to that. All right, but different cities or municipalities don't have a lot of money that they're willing to put into the water infrastructure. So these corporations will come in and they'll say, we'll rebuild it for you, but it's going to be our water. So that means that Coke or Nestle will own different bodies of water. Again, and it's happening in the U.S. Luckily, one area was recently halted that was taking place in the U.S. And I know that there's some indigenous people up in Canada who are really fighting it. But it's a serious and scary issue when we know that water is going to be a rare commodity eventually.
I saw it. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Go ahead.
Oh,
No,
I just saw a really great documentary called Tapped about the whole thing. I don't know if you've seen that one.
It's in my queue, but I want to.
Yeah, and it talks about like damming the rivers and just taking all the water so that farmers don't have any, or that the local people don't have any to use, and it's quite intense.
Yeah, good. I want to see that. The one that I like that talks about it was actually, I think it was in The Corporation. Do you remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Way back when? And they talk about what happened in Bolivia when they fought. And they won. They beat Bechtel, which is a big corporation. They were trying to privatize and own the water in this area in Bolivia, and the indigenous community fought it, and they won.
Yeah, it's surprising when you talk about it happening in the U.S. I don't think a lot of people realize it unless they live in a desert like area like we do. I mean, water issues are constantly in the news and constantly being fought over. It is a scarce resource that a lot of people don't realize, you know, in some areas, but out here it totally is.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who owns your water supply in the area and keeping an eye out for that kind of stuff. If I see anything come up in your area, I'll send it over to you to help fight the good fight.
Oh, totally. Thank you. That'd be amazing. Well, would you like to leave everyone with anything, like any last words you'd like to say?
Well, I want to thank you both for all that you do for the animals and for the planet and for human liberation as well. And just, you know, kind of getting these issues out there. And I appreciate always speaking to people who understand the connection, who see that it's all important and it's in areas that we can all try and do something about and to stop contributing to. So I just want to thank you all and, you know, hope that people will take the time to look at these issues in a broader way. And for those hardcore animal liberation vegan activists to understand kind of what we're talking about. So that doesn't mean they have to change, their organizing or their activist for the animals as much as maybe they think about these other issues.
Well, thank you. How can people connect with you online?
We have, Food Empowerment Project has our website, foodispower.org, and we have a Facebook page, and we also have a Twitter account. And I'm not on Twitter or Facebook, but people can email me at Lauren, Lauren, at foodispower.org.
Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome and very informative.
Really
Thank you.
One thing I want to throw out there is you guys also have your smartphone app for your chocolate, so it's a quick, easy resource.
We do. Thank you for that. And now that you say that, I should probably also mention we have a petition against Cliff Bar right now. Cliff Bar will not disclose where they get their chocolate from, so we have a petition online, and we hope to eventually ramp up that campaign a little bit more over the next year.
Yeah, that was the ones that surprised me.
Laura Bar as well.
Yeah, Laura Bar as well. Cliff Bar, they really seem to get it in a lot of other areas, but they will not be transparent on where their chocolate comes from. And as we know from other campaigns from Apple to Nike, gaining that transparency is the first step in getting changes to be made.
And that sucks because I really do like their chocolate over nuts Luda Bar.
Write them and write them. See, I'm not going to say, "Oh, you can still buy it." No.
Oh no, I'm not. I won't. Like, that's, that's off. Like,
yeah, I'm not buying.
Tell them that it's off, man.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Okay,
have a good one.
Bye. I really enjoyed talking to Lauren.
I did too.
Yeah, but this week we heard Moby Isame.
We also had Herox, 8-bit dubstep, which you're hearing right now.
I always love the chiptune 8-bit dubstep stuff.
Pretty soon you'll hear some fucking Nintendo thing.
Yeah, I don't know when it's coming up because we're not listening to it right now.
No.
The magic of the radio. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, the internet, whatever. And as always,
El Comandantes.
Which side are you on?
Which side are you on?
Oh, since we already told everyone about the wishlist membership drive, if you didn't hear that at front, skip all the way to the front. But why the fuck are you listening to the end if you didn't hear it at the front?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, we're not going to hash on that again.
Yeah, but I would like to say that
if you're going to be buying shit for the people you love,
yeah,
or even the people you hate, or or semi-acquaintances with,
yeah, if you're buying something from Amazon,
yeah, if you're going to be buying from Amazon,
use our
goddamn link.
It gives us a small kickback.
But even better than that, fucking takes money away from Amazon because they give it to us.
Yeah.
They would keep the profits otherwise, but instead, no, we get a couple pennies.
Which is great.
It's actually more than pennies. It adds up really quickly.
It does add up good for us.
Yeah.
And that's including everything that you purchase. So if you had stuff already on your shopping cart and you click on our link and you just check out,
yeah,
then all it does is everything that you've bought, and then we get a kickback from each item.
So if you're already going to be buying something through Amazon, use our link. If you're not going to be buying something through Amazon, don't.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
That's pretty much it.
I don't want to shame people and be like, go buy from Amazon. No, fuck, if you can, buy it local. Totally.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you can't, if you're ordering in the vegan Kit Kats, which I don't know if that has vegan chocolate.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought of that, but I was just saying you can only get those on Amazon.
I did notice that, what are they called? The peanut shoes.
Mm-hmm.
They are working on issues currently.
They're working on issues? Not recommended, but working on issues.
Not recommended, but working on issues.
Yeah.
So.
But if you're going to be buying that type of stuff that you can only get, online, use our Amazon link. Helps us out, fucks Amazon over, and you're already going to be using it anyways.
Yeah.
So
we're the best affiliates.
We're fucking awesome. So yeah, fuck them.
Yeah.
Give us money through them.
Something
capitalism.
Like that. Something like that.
God damn it, capitalism makes me feel terrible every time.
Yeah, it does.
So you guys are awesome, so thank you.
Yeah.
have a good one.
I was gonna say though,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
like us and follow us on social media
Yes.
and
On the Twitter,
Facebook, Tumblr,
Instagram,
and Instagram.
and if you have a Google Plus, you might want to ask yourself why, but we're there.
I'm not really updating that very well,
Well, there's something there.
but yeah, it exists.
So you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, thanks to Mari, the booker. She's awesome.
Totally. Send her a little thank you note. She's the one that gets all the interviews for us, and thank you.
Fuck shit damn.
Oh God, I forgot about that part. Yeah, fuck shit damn, man. Fuck.
Shit damn.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.